Well, hello, boys and girls. It's when we feel like 8 o'clock. I'm Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom. Coming to you live from Helen's Place. I'm going to be doing, Bob McKenzie just put out his top draft picks for like 2-3 rounds, but we're going to just do one round this time. And I'm going to be doing, I did a video, and everybody knows in the land knows this. I did a video a little while ago doing my picks and comparisons to players in the league. I specifically went in the league, and for the most part they did too here, but in one case they didn't. But I thought it would be great to look at what my comparison was compared to their comparison. And also, don't forget that we have Hernandez and Melissa is out in the Perlocopter right now with all the subscribers coming in. Oh my gosh, subscribers. They're out in the Perlocopter handing out the My NHL Pearls of Wisdom necklaces signed by me. So please subscribe, hit the bell. Keep them working. It's what they live for. It's what their dreams are made of, to do that. So you hit the subscribe and the bell. Anyways, yes, I did it. So I thought it would be kind of neat to go look at that. Some of the players I didn't actually project as in the league because there were so many variations. I had a difficult time putting a name on who they may be like because their upside and downside were so extreme. But they have some of them here, and I'm going to look at what they said and go, okay, maybe I would be a little less or a little higher on certain players. Bob McKenzie is a very well-respected commentator in the NHL, especially when it comes to the draft. Now, why would you want to listen to what I have to say? Because you have guys like Bob McKenzie. Bob McKenzie goes to a bunch of scouts. 10 of them, I think, mostly is the ones he relies on in the NHL. Gets their picks and ideas, and then he formulates this list. Well, the reason that I would do it, if I were you, is if you looked at my last 10 years of picks for the draft, I nail them a lot. For some reason, I'm really good at this. There's 2 things I'm good at in this world. NHL capping, which if you go to my Patreon, BPAL Picks, when hockey and everything gets started, you can make a lot of money doing that. People make a lot of money using the Patreon that I have. The second thing is, for some reason, well, hockey in general, but for some reason, especially the draft, I seem to kick ass quite a bit. Pure luck maybe, but 10 years of luck, I don't know. It's quite the window of information. So that's the reason why. So let's get into this. Number 1 is, oh, by the way, forgot about this. Got to do this because this is so fun. I went to the Tankathon there. You can go check that out. And I simmed a lottery to see who would pick where or whatever. You just press it one time. Only allowed to press it once. That's it. Whatever comes up is what it is. So the first winner was, and imagine this, the Montreal Canadiens. They moved up 7 spots. And they're going to get Alexis Lafreniere, of course. Now, when I did my comparison thing, I compared him to Huberdeau if Huberdeau would score like another 10 to 15 goals. This guy has got everything. Amazing passer, big, solid player that knows how to use his body well. About the only thing you'd have to worry about with Lafreniere, I should say, is maybe if his size is going to project to the NHL. And this is, I'll bring this up to with another player coming up here. These big players, sometimes it's difficult to project if they're going to be able to play the same game in the NHL as they do in junior, where they can use their body to such more of an advantage. But that remains to be seen. Anyways, their comparison was Rantanen, and I like that pick. Why didn't I think of that? Rantanen's great. Like I said, Huberdeau with a couple goals. That's kind of what Rantanen is. He's fantastic. So I like that pick. The next pick, and this is kind of a surprise because throughout most drafts, this is not the person that is picked. It's Stützle. Now, when I did mine here, I had the next guy on line, but we'll go with Stützle. And I have the interesting comparison I have to Stützle. Now, one of the reasons why maybe I don't have him as high is because I didn't get much of a chance to watch him. But their comparison is having Stützle as a winger, because Stützle can play wing and center. And they have Kane. Wow. That would be, I think that's a little high. I don't think he's the high of Kane. Maybe they're just going styles there, but I think that's a little high. I actually had him as a center, and he reminds me a lot of Barzal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Who would get that, you ask? Well, in this draft, in this Tankathon draft, it would be the Detroit Red Wings. And apparently they are extremely high on Stützle. And if it was up to them, if they did have the second pick, from everything I'm hearing, that's exactly who they would pick. So it seems to bode well that they would go this way. Number 3 then changes a little bit from most drafts. My draft at the time, I had the next player, and I'll explain why. It's Byfield, Quinton Byfield. Quinton Byfield, first of all, I'll tell you who their comparison was, and it just so happens mine was the exact same thing. Andrzej Kopitar. There's a lot of people that have compared him to Malkin, and I mentioned that in the video I did, but I don't think he has the offensive upside, but I understand it because he actually kind of looks like Malkin, the way he skates and stuff like that. But I just don't see him having that kind of offensive upside. I do see him could be a very good two-way player. Here's what I was talking about the size issue, and I think this is maybe why he dropped a little bit here in comparison to other people's drafts. And I think he might even drop lower because it's really hard to project with his size. He's very big. Byfield is 6'4", 214. In junior, that's enormous. Now, he's not going to be able to get away with a lot of the things in the NHL as he does in junior. And the question is he going to be able to adapt to that? That's why a lot of scouts, and me included, think that he's probably going to have another year in junior before he goes, because these are things that he's going to have to adjust to. Next pick, the 4th pick, is Jamie Drysdale. And they have him compared to Zubov. Now, that's unfair. I thought it had to be somebody in the league. But I do like that. He does remind me of Zubov a lot. And if you don't know much about Zubov, it's too bad because he's the most underrated defenseman of all time as far as I'm concerned. He is as good as most of the defensemen that are in the Hall of Fame. He was one of the best in his zone for holding the puck, like Nicholas Lidstrom. I think he was better than Nicholas Lidstrom in a lot of ways. The way he was so patient and could hold the puck under pressure, he was incredible. And Drysdale reminds me a lot of that. I don't know if he's going to reach those sort of accolades, but his game does remind me of that. I actually had a newer player, and Makar. So that's because I couldn't think of anybody like a Cam Fowler, but none of them really did it justice. Sometimes Drew Doughty has that type of thing. I think I mentioned Drew Doughty there. But I think Makar is going to be a very special player, and these two defensemen are pretty similar to each other. Next, number 5, they have Cole Perfetti as number 5. I think Cole Perfetti is a little high, but it's only because of skating, and I get screwed with this sometimes. I did the same thing with Peterson when he was in there, and Cole Perfetti's not that big. I did the same mistake with Peterson, and maybe I'm making the same mistake here because they have him compared to Panarin. I had him compared to Nugent Hopkins. His offense in junior is really good. And if Nugent Hopkins' offense was similar, but there's something about their games that don't project completely to that level in the NHL. It reminds me of a Nugent Hopkins, and maybe not as good as defensively as Nugent Hopkins. For some reason, I have him falling. And like I said, I got burnt with Peterson like a lot of people did. He went number 10, and that could very well be the case. And this makes it even more like me, more thinking that I might be missing out on something, because having him as a Panarin-like player is, these are well-respected scouts and all of that stuff like that. So now the next one we have is Lucas Raymond. I have him higher than Panarin, but that's besides the point. We're going to go, here's something that's very interesting about this, is that Lucas Raymond, they said the game he projects most to is Mitch Marner. And so did I. By the way, who did I tell you who is going to be taking Cole, it would be, if they actually went by this exact way, Drysdale would have went to Ottawa, and then Raymond, their next pick, would also have gone to Ottawa. Is that right? Yes. No, Perfetti would go to Ottawa. So Perfetti and Drysdale would go to Ottawa. Raymond now would go to LA. Raymond would go to LA. LA could use a player like that. And geez, imagine if Panarin, if Perfetti does turn out to be Panarin-like, and Lucas Raymond turns out to be like Zubov-like or Makar-like. Wow, that certainly gets that rebuild going in Ottawa, doesn't it? And in LA, if we have a Marner-like player in LA, that would be beautiful for them. And for how well they've rebuilt, I think they very well deserve it. I hope that he does turn out like that if they happen to pick him here, of course. It's a lot of projection, but it's fun. At number 7, they have Rossi. And Rossi, their projection for Rossi was Backstrom. And you know what? That's not a bad pick. I think it might be better than the one I picked. I picked Point. But they're similar, all right? Rossi would say he's more of a playmaker, Point's more of a goal scorer. It's like splitting hairs. But those are the two that I had. I believe I had Rossi a little lower. No, I had him higher. That's right. So I had him a little higher. At number 8, they have the flavor of the week, or flavor of the lately, is Sanderson, and Jake Sanderson. He's been moving up in many rankings, and I have him lower than this. They have him looking like a Morrissey type player, and the reason why I didn't take him is, okay, Morrissey's fantastic. He could reach that. There's no doubt about that. But to me, he could just as well be Hamonic in Calgary or somebody like that. Your run-of-the-mill 3-4. But heck, if it was Morrissey that he became, and that would go to Buffalo. Now Buffalo wouldn't need defensemen, so maybe they don't pick him there. But I'm just going by where they have him set and what team would go there. Number 10, we have Jack Quinn. I also didn't give this guy a projection. They have him as Pasternak. Now that has to be style, because if he's going to be like Pasternak, you're going to have him way higher in this draft, right? And I can kind of agree. The reason why I think they went with Pasternak here is Pasternak, a lot of people don't realize, it's funny, he never gets the attention for this, but he's kind of a one-way player. He's not the best defensive player. And I would say the same with Jack Quinn. I just don't see him having the offensive upside as Pasternak. And there's several players like that are wingers that you could put here, like a Jake Sanderson or somebody like that. Not Jake Sanderson, like a Jake Sanderson. What am I talking about? Skinner, like Skinner in Buffalo or somebody like that. Number 11, they have a guy who I have out of the top 20 because of his skating, and another one that could kind of burn me. But they have, did I have this right? Sorry, number 11, I have this wrong. Number 11, they have somebody who I have very high as well. They have Askarov. And their comparison, who, by the way, would go to New Jersey here, which would be fine. They could, awesome to have a goaltender like that. They have him as Price. I have him more like Pekka Rinne, but I do have him as a very solid chance to be a number 1 goaltender. Like very, 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 very solid. Highly unlikely he's not a number 1 goaltender in the league. Reminds me a lot of Rinne when I look at Rinne, though. That's just the reason why I go that. He just looks like Rinne. Goaltenders are voodoo, as I like to say. Now it's the next pick. I did not project a player for this next pick because I had him lower than they do. They have Lundell next. Lundell is a Swedish player who has put up some decent points there, but the problem is, again, his skating is not the greatest. And they have him as a Philip Danault, and that makes sense. That being said, even if he is a Philip Danault, I don't know if I put him up here, but I would say that's his high side. Dano is an underrated centerman. Very, very good defensive centerman. Should not be playing in a number 1 spot. Maybe on a really good team, shouldn't even be a number 2, but can be. So that's why I would have him lower, since that is his upside. And I don't know if he's even going to reach that, depending on what his skating is. So that's why I have him a little lower. And I didn't give him a comparison because there's a lot of players like that. But Dano, I think, is a fair comparison. Next, they have number 13. By the way, Lundell, that would go to 12. Lundell, that would go to Winnipeg. 13, we have the New York Rangers. And going by their pick, this seems like a Ranger. The next one I'm going to say just seems like a Ranger. I don't know why. Something about his name. But it's Mercer. And there are people, this is a name, Dawson Mercer, that I've heard up and down and everything, and I can understand it here at this. Their comparison, McKenzie's comparison, is Wheeler, and that's interesting. I think that's his high side, Wheeler. And I didn't give a player, honestly, because he's a guy that could easily be like a really good third liner, complimentary guy that can go up and down your lineup. You might think of a whole bunch of names that could come here. That's the reason why. They're solid. They're great to have. If he becomes Wheeler-like, though, ooh, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic for the New York Rangers. But there's something about him that just sounds like a Ranger to me. So it works out well that way. Next pick. I had a comparison for this next pick, and I think he could even go way higher. And that is Seth Jarvis. And they have him as Point, and so did I. I think he reminds me a hell of a lot of Braden Point. He's got that type of offense. He's got that type of determination. He's small like Braden Point. To me, this kid's going to play. And this is the reason why I say I'd have him higher up into the Lundell area. I wouldn't put Lundell over Seth Jarvis here. Again, they're shying away from the size. Lundell is 6'1", so if he doesn't pan out, even if he's only a 4th liner, he's a big person in your lineup. But I think most philosophies are shying away from that, and honestly, I think somebody's going to scoop Jarvis up higher than this. At number 15, they have an interesting one, Lapierre. And Lapierre is way down. In fact, a lot of scouts don't even have him in the first round because he's been injured. Hendrix Lapierre. However, this is really encouraging because if these scouts, reason why I listen to a lot of scouts, I read a lot of scouting reports and all that sort of stuff, is when you see scouts putting somebody up like this, it means that his injury he's going to be okay. More than likely, the injury is not going to be a long-term thing, and you could be scooping a gem here. This guy was going to be up in the top 5 before the injury, and he could very well still be that. They have him as Bergeron, and that is very accurate. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be Selke caliber like that, but Couturier, strong defensive center that can play offense as well, very well. Mikko Koivu, maybe, something like that. Like, just to take a gamble, it's hard not to take a gamble on this guy, especially if you've got some insight on his injury issues. Now the next ones, I don't think any of these that I actually put a name down, so I'm just going to go through them for the sake of time as well, and maybe I'll make a few comments. Oh, by the way, who would get Mr. Bergeron? It would be the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Seth Jarvis would go to, I'm missing one. 14, I missed one. I'm screwing all you guys up here, aren't I? 15 would go to, 14 is another one that I almost put up higher, and I'm starting to really believe in this guy now because it's Caden Goulet, and they've got him in number 14, which would go to the Florida Panthers, and they compare him to Nurse, and that is a perfect comparison. If his high upside is that, the reason why I didn't pick him and put him there is there's a lot of shades to his game. He's got a lot of work to do. He's a long-term project, but he can be Nurse-like. And if that were to go to Florida, that'd be perfect, because that's exactly what they need in their prospect pool. Somebody like that. They need defensemen there as quickly as possible, although I think it would take a while for him to get there. At 16, we have Dylan Holloway, and they have him as a couturier type. I don't think Holloway's got that type of offense. We'll see, but very good defensive center. Many of those in the league right now, we could go down their list on third line centers. That's kind of what I see him as. Nothing wrong with that. And that would go to Calgary Flames. Number 17, Schneider, they have him as Trouba. Again, that's Trouba-like, I would think. That would go again to the New Jersey Devils. They could use somebody like that. If he could get Trouba-like levels, ooh, that would be great for that lineup. I think he's going to be a little less than that. And again, you can pick a lot of defensemen that are like Schneider, and where he goes up and down, where his high is low is very difficult to project. Although he seems like a very safe pick, at least a 5'6" defenseman. So, what do we have? Amarov as the 19th, 18th pick would be. They have Jarvis at the 18th? What did I miss? Right, I screwed it up. Goulet was number 14. Jarvis is number 18. I have him as point. I don't think he's going to be that. I think he's going to go way higher than that. 19, Amarov. They say DeBrusque. If he's going to be DeBrusque-like, that's why I had him lower. I don't know. There's something about Amarov that he looks too soft for me when he plays. And DeBrusque kind of is like that too. Not engaged enough. So DeBrusque could be not a bad pick. At 20, that would go to Carolina. My Edmonton Oilers then would take Reichel, a Palat-like player. Oh, that would be fantastic to have. And I can see that. I think Reichel might have higher offensive upside than that, but I had him down in this area too. Perreault at number 21. I think that's going to be way higher. And they have him as Palmieri, and that's why I think he's going to be way higher than that. If he's going to be I think he's very likely going to be a Palmieri type player, and I'd have him in my top 20, my top 15 probably at least. There's a couple players that I had further down, but it is really difficult. That's probably where why I wouldn't have Lundell so high. I didn't have Goulet because I like Jarvis higher. Connor Zary, they have Lindholm. I like Connor Zary. I had him higher, and I think Lindholm is a great projection. So why wouldn't you have him higher? I thought him as maybe a Nugent Hopkins type player as well. So why wouldn't you have him higher in this draft when you're starting to get into comparisons like Palat and stuff like that? The next one they have is Greg, and honestly, I didn't even have him in my radar, and they have him as Braden Shen. So this is a off the board type guy that the top 10 scouts go with, and they come up all the time. Barron, as compared to Niskanen, that sounds fair. I can go with that. I like Barron compared to Niskanen if he reaches those levels, but I think, like I said, there are, like with these, once we get down to these areas, you can take a whole bunch of defensemen that he could be like that are 5'6" and stuff like that. Their window of high and low is, their high is not that high. Their low could be very low. They could be missing the playoffs altogether. Bork, Krejci, and Verlander, Ekholm. I think that's really Ekholm. Putting him in Ekholm, yeah, sure, he could make that. He might have that style. But honestly, I don't even have him in the first round. I think he's just too soft. I understand why they projected that, but I wouldn't take him. And then Gunler as Toffoli. I had him higher, and I could see Gunler as Toffoli. This is a guy that somebody could pick higher because he is a pure offensive player pretty much. There's a lot to his game that needs work. But if he pans out, if he puts his mind to it and becomes the type of player that he can be very, very good. He's one of those players that somewhere down the line, he's going to get picked this low, and they're going to go, why the hell did he go so low? The next one is Forrester, and their comparison is Corey Perry. That's really being positive. I don't think Forrester's offense is going to reach that levels, but I do understand he has the intensity and physical capabilities. He could be a fourth liner. He could be a third liner. He possibly could build that offense up, but I'm not so sure. Bryson Dubois, again, a two-way center. You put Dubois in there. Sure, he's trying to reach that level of ability. That's probably where his abilities lie, is that type of player of like Dubois. And Jake Neighbors as Lucic. Honestly, I don't know where they get that from. He's small. He's the kind of guy that he's not small, but he does play a feisty game. I see him as likely a fourth liner, and I wouldn't take him in the first round. That's my full 42, boys and girls. That's all I have to give. I hope this was fine programming for you, because it sure was fun for me. Comment in the comment section anything you disagree with or agree with or whatever you want to say. I love talking to you guys down there. Make sure you're in the comment section. Back when I was doing capping and I had all my picks, we were commenting all day and hockey was on, and I miss it. I really miss it. So here's some commenting pearls for you. Okay. This will go into your commenting bone, whatever that is, and incite you to comment with me. Wow. All through the land. And now everyone will comment. Boom. Have a great day. Lots of love to you.